Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. And today it is all about Studio Series Starscream, the first Studio Series figure that I've managed to get my hands on. Thus far, the only one, but as of this recording, the 2 leader class figures I pre-ordered are actually on the way, so that will change. But yeah, Studio Series Starscream. I actually found him in a store, if you could believe that. Not around here, of course, because the selection around here is still garbage. But I was visiting the folks over the weekend, and he was just sitting there in a Target, so just in case anyone's getting their hopes up, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of Studio Series figure videos, because as of right now, there are only 3 that I want. Starscream, Grimlock, and Blackout. And I don't know too much about what's coming in the other waves, but the handful that I've seen don't really interest me. And I feel like the less I say about the current waves deluxes, the better. So yeah, we're just all about Starscream right now. I'm getting off track. And this is a pretty awesome figure. Now, I know he's derived from the deluxe class figure from... was it Revenge of the Fallen? Or Dark of the Moon? I don't know, it was one of the movie deluxe class Seekers, where they basically, as I understand it, they kind of blew it up and changed a couple of aspects of the engineering. One thing to keep in mind is I don't own and have never owned and have never even held the deluxe mold in my hands, so for me this is all new. There's nothing actually familiar about this transformation to me. That said, I might catch flack for this, I might not, but I think I actually like Studio Series Starscream better than Hunt for the Decepticons Leader Class Starscream. I know, it's just, I hate electronics in figures because they just tend to get in the way. Lights and sounds, stuff like that, it just kind of, I don't know, typically they end up having to either sacrifice engineering and or paint, or just in general drive up the price of the figure because there's all this electronic junk inside, and it's like, I don't need that. I don't want that. It's pointless. I just want a good toy. A cool toy that transforms, maybe has a fun transformation, looks good in both modes, that kind of thing. And that is what Studio Series Starscream does. Plus, while I liked the fact that Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream was a biggin, it made putting him on a shelf with other figures a little bit difficult. And I think a Voyager-sized movie Starscream is a much better fit for my collection, because I can put him on a shelf with my Human Alliance figures or with other movie-based figures, and he actually fits and leaves plenty of room for others, instead of being crammed away in a corner where you can barely see him, and yet he still takes up the footprint of like 3 or 4 other figures. Also, he's got wrist swivels, but we're going to get into that in robot mode. But yeah, Studio Series Starscream is very cool. I'm pretty much just echoing what everyone else is saying about this figure, but it is a very cool figure, and it's a pretty nice jet mode. One thing that I'm noticing now under the lights, it's not as obvious in, I guess, regular lighting, but here it's very obvious how the plastic in these 3 points is a much more regular gray than everything else, and it's a little bit darker, and I don't really know why they decided to do that. Like, especially here and here, I feel like they could have just done the same color that they have here, because, you know, it's like it's up along the middle where there's none of that gradation or anything, so I don't know. But yeah, it's Starscream. It is was it an F-22 Raptor, I think? And it does look good. I like the fact that he's not covered in Cybertronian tattoos. Which, I mean, it wasn't a huge issue with the Hunt for the Decepticon Starscream for me, but, like, I like the cleaner, less conspicuous Earth-based paint job than the Cybertronian tattoo thing. And while I'm not too crazy about the colors that they chose here, specifically this kind of bluish gray and tan, I imagine there's a reason. It might be more movie accurate, it might be more accurate to an actual, like, paint job that a jet like this would get. The 2 colors are very similar in tone. I feel like maybe they could have, bumped up the contrast a bit. What I do really like, though, is this white that they've got going around all the edges. That's just, it's neat. It kind of highlights the silhouette of the figure a little bit. Or I should alt mode. highlights the silhouette of the alt mode a little bit. And yeah, it's a nice little detail. And it's the one time where there's a pointlessly translucent bit of glass or whatever. Well, not really glass, but you know what I mean. It's a pointlessly translucent window on an alt mode that actually doesn't bother me because none of the transformation stuff is in there. It's just a tiny jet cockpit. And you can actually see a little molded seat and console in there. And that's a neat little detail. And this is just one tiny portion of the alt mode. It's not like, all over the place. You don't have to worry about whether the front, side, and rear windows are all the same. So yeah, it works out pretty well here. And the underside, it's robot junk, but it's not, I don't think it's blatantly obvious robot junk. Like, it doesn't look, I'm sure this is not what the underside of this jet actually looks like, but it also doesn't necessarily look like a folded up robot. Just kind of looks like he's got some weird electronic junk hanging off the bottom there. As for the detailing, there's some nice bit in there, like the intakes, some nice molding around here, and I've been tempted to possibly do some panel lining on this guy because I think there are a lot of nice little molded details that could be brought out, a lot of little patterns. But at the same time, I'm not sure it's necessary because the plastic and paint on this guy are so light. The texture actually shows up pretty well in most lighting. So I feel like it might be a little unnecessary to actually do anything extra to bring out those details. But you can see there are some whole lot of molded details in there. Also, there's a bit of Charlie Brown there for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, Studio Series Starscream it's a pretty nice alt mode. For what it is, anyway. I'm not really a huge aviation buff, so it's neither here nor there for me, but it still looks nice. And size-wise is, is a Voyager. He's pretty much Voyager sized. Noticeably bigger than a Deluxe, but not enormous like a Leader. Now, as I said, I don't have any other Studio Series figures at the moment, so I can't do a direct comparison with him and any of the other Studio Series figures, but yeah, I'd say he's roughly Voyager size, maybe a tiny bit bigger in the alt mode, just based on, say, for example, Titan's Return Blitzwing, which I no longer have, but from what I can remember, the jet mode is just a tiny bit smaller than that. In terms of other jet modes, there's the Black Mamba upscaled Nitro Zeus, Ares Nitrogen. I still just that name. And yeah, this thing is still enormous, especially compared to little old Starscream here. It's kind of, yeah. It's like a parent taking their child out for a stroll or something. Not really much of a comparison, but I figured why the heck not? Let's get my one other Bayformers jet in the shot here. Alright, so I think that is everything for the alt mode for Starscream here. As I said, it's not a bad looking jet, and I do very much like the white highlights they've got going around here. It just kind of helps to bring out the shape and the details in a few places. But other than that, not much else I can say about it, so let's get to the robot mode. Right then, Studio Series Starscream in robot mode. Also really cool, and very impressive, and once again I'm inclined to say that I kinda like this better than the Leader Class Hunt for the Decepticons version, which pretty much comes down to the lack of electronics headache, the less fiddly transformation, I guess I could call it. Just there are parts of Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream transformation that's a little bit eh. And the fact that he doesn't have gorilla arms. That was something that bugged the crap out of me with Human Alliance Starscream. And I know that there were Shapeways hands that you could get for Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream that would give him very nicely articulated ball-jointed hands, but like, you had to mangle the figure to install them. Like, you have to chop off the hands, bore a hole into the wrists, and like, no. That's way too much work for something that really should have been considered from the start. Also, I think I've got this misaligned right here, so one sec. No, I guess it's just off-center for some reason. I don't really know why. Like, that's slightly lower than that, but whatever. They're in the proper peg holes. And it doesn't... Like, it's a little weird, but it doesn't... I guess it doesn't bother me that much, because I just noticed it now, and also, he's a big mess of mangled metal, so, I don't know, the slight asymmetry kind of works. But anyway, yeah. Studio Series Starscream does not have the gorilla arms, which I hated on Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream, which in my mind is just enough to make it make it a winner, but also, as I said, because he's a little bit smaller, he can fit on the shelf easier, and it's just easier to display him with everything else. And he does look really good. I actually really like how this all comes together. It's like all this darker gunmetal that you don't see in the alt mode, but now it's like sprinkled throughout the robot mode, like from down here up through the thighs and through here. There's a little bit kind of worked in through the torso and the arms and collar there. And that definitely helps to just kind of differentiate the colors of the robot mode a little bit. I mean, ultimately, it's still got the same kind of tan and tannish gray color scheme going, but just that extra little bit of dark is very nice. And shape-wise, he's a typical movie Starscream, and I know there are people who've taken issue with movie Starscream's appearance, but I am not one of them. I think this actually is a interesting look. Like just the way that the plane kind of accordions in to make his torso, and then you've just got legs and arms coming off of it. I don't know. It's a neat look, and I like the fact that he's got this kind of impossibly large torso that just kind of sells the slight alienness of it all. And he cleans up well. It's just like a little bit of a thing on the back here, which is nicely textured too. It's a little bit plain, no pun intended, but it's fine because, you know, it's his back. It's a little bit strange how his torso is nice and, you know, bulky, but then from the waist down, it's all kind of thin and pushed forward. It's a kind of weird balance. I mean, the chicken legs, you know, help to balance it out, but like I feel like if this could have just shifted back a little bit more so it looks a little bit more centered, it would be nice, but then when you're looking at it from the front, it's not really noticeable, so whatever. Not really a huge deal. And then detail-wise, of course, because details, he is loaded with details, and I like that there are a lot of details here that you don't really see in the alt mode. I mean, you can if you turn the alt mode upside down, but for the most part, a lot of this stuff isn't immediately noticeable. Like you've got a little bit here and here from the jet mode, and then of course this bit here, but like virtually all of the jet mode, with the exceptions of the chest and the sides of the legs here, virtually all of the rest of it is not seen, at least from the front in robot mode, and I think that's pretty cool. I've always liked how Starscream just kind of looks like he's made up of jagged edges. Anyway, back to the details. You can see there's just lots of little molded details in here that are really neat and absolutely go with the Bayverse aesthetic. Now, as I understand it, these bits are a new addition from the deluxe mold that this is borrowing from, so it helps to kind of fill out the chest a little bit more. And I like that. That definitely looks good, and I think it kind of, in a way, kind of incorporates part of the leader class Hunt for the Decepticons figure there, because he also had like the little bits that came in and kind of filled in the chest. In a slightly different way, but still, it's a nice touch, and it definitely helps. I also really like how there's just this bit of gunmetal mechanical detail that's revealed once you pull this flap back and you transform him, and it's just adds just a little bit more interest there. And now you got like piston details in the arms there that are actually painted, and just, yeah, there's just like a lot of little things in here that I like, and there are plenty of little details that could have been brought out, and I probably could do on my own if I wanted to, because again, like panel lining and stuff like that. But what I like is that the color is broken up enough that I don't really feel like there's any extra painting that needs to happen with this guy. Like, there's nothing on any part of his robot mode that looks like it's too much of one color. Because, I mean, even the thighs, yeah, it's like a whole bunch of beige, but then you've got this, like, darker gunmetal kind of just behind there. They did a really good job with this figure. It's it's really great. Apparently, this is where most of the budget for the deluxes went. But anyway, not hating on anyone who likes the deluxe figures, it's just, for me, they look way too not great. But anyway, one more thing is the head, which is the typical Starscream head. It always kind of made me think of the alien fighter ships from Independence Day, just the shape of it. But it's a good head, some nice detail there, and just enough is painted to make those details stand out. Could do with a little more paint, I think. But again, not bad. Not bad at all. And I do actually, as I've said multiple times, really, really like this version of Starscream and this figure. It's just neat. And he has wrist swivels. He doesn't have gorilla arms anymore. I love that so much. And for the size comparison, you can see he is more or less Voyager size, maybe even a little bit taller than a typical Voyager. I mean, he compacts very nicely into that jet mode, and I kind of like how the jet itself kind of just crunches into the torso, and then he just gets the spindly arms and legs that pop out. Yeah, he's a good size for what he is. And I like that, again, he's a good size. He's not too big to the point where he's annoying to fit on a shelf. Now with Ares Nitrogen, yeah, that's a little... it's not much of a comparison there. He's a bit small when put side by side with Ares there. Though I do think they look okay together. And now, there are a couple more size comparisons, just because. I figure, why not do some Human Alliance size comparisons? So, Ares with Soundwave, and I mean, yeah, the scale totally doesn't work. Starscream should definitely be a fair bit bigger than Soundwave here, but they still look good together. I just think aesthetically, having the two of them next to each other, it totally works. Size-wise, not so much, but that's okay. And here he is with Human Alliance Jazz, and again, I do think they look good together because, they're Bayverse figures, so they have the same general aesthetic going for them. But yeah, Jazz definitely should not be that tall compared to Starscream, but it's okay. All that matters to me is that they look good on a shelf next to each other, and they do. And I do believe that is going to do it for Studio Series Starscream. He is a very cool figure. And I know a lot of people have been saying that he's been a highlight of the series as well as the 2 leader figures, which, fingers crossed, will be in the mail soon. But I can only echo that because that's blatant truth. Studio Series Starscream is a wonderful figure. And yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, I don't have any experience with the deluxe figure, so I don't know how derivative this is of that, but I don't care because this is a really great figure. The transformation is enjoyable, it looks really good in both modes, it's not absurdly huge like the leader class figure, doesn't have any pointless electronics. I am just very, very happy with this. This is a very cool figure. But anyway, that's enough of my droning on about this really fantastic figure. What do you all think? Has anyone else out there been able to get their hands on Studio Series Starscream yet? I know that some people have been lucky in that they've been able to find him in stores, myself included, which is only because I was out of town and managed to go somewhere where the selection isn't crap. But still, if anyone else has gotten their hands on Studio Series Starscream, please let me know what you think. And if you also have been able to do like not necessarily a direct comparison, but if you've had Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream in the past or anything, like which of the 2 do you think is the better figure? I mean, when I say I like this one better, I don't mean I think Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream is bad. It's still a very excellent figure. But in terms of just general toyness, I definitely would give it to Studio Series Starscream. He's just more fun to transform, better size, no arbitrary lights and sounds gimmicks, actually has wrist swivels. But I've said all this before. Go off on a tangent on what I think when I've already said what I think, and I'm trying to ask what you think. So yeah, what do you all think of this versus Hunt for the Decepticons Starscream? And what other characters are you hoping to see pop up in the Studio Series? I would love to see a couple more of the Dinobots get the Studio Series treatment, because that Grimlock looks amazing, and I did not like any of the other movie Grimlock toys I've seen up to this point, but Studio Series Grimlock looks utterly fantastic, so I could only imagine what like a Studio Series Scorn or Sludge. I guess technically they didn't do a Sludge in the movie, but you know what I mean. Like just any other Studio Series Dinobots I think would be great. I think a Studio Series Jetfire could be really cool, especially if they found a way to do it without all the obnoxious panel nonsense, like just completely new mold. And I would totally be down for Studio Series Constructicons. Not necessarily a Devastator combination, although that would be cool too, but like just the Constructicons. Because I actually really like the movie Constructicons. Even Demolisher, yes, even Demolisher. I think a studio series Demolisher, Long Haul, Rampage, all of them, it would just be really cool. And we could also potentially get Constructicons that were in the movie that never got toys. Like, I forget the name of the one. It was a flatbed truck, like a really long flatbed truck. It just looked awesome, but never got a toy. Or I should say never got a toy that wasn't like a Tiny Legends class that served just to combine it to Devastator. But whatever your thoughts, please feel free to comment down below. I do enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like or subscribe. Any combination of those three things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.